Campty Show. We're back, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hello, everybody.
And by Tom.
Hi.
We're absolutely chomping at the bit to get back into podcasting. Listen to the enthusiasm from these guys.
It's hell.
It is big time. Right, okay. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
If you discount the ex-player pods, which weren't real pods according to Paul, they can be filed next to penalties in their non-existence. I think what is it, March was it 6 months since we've done like a standard just chatting shit one?
Well, the last time that I saw us play, I think, was March the 1st against Sunderland. And I think we had one game after that, which was the Ipswich game. So, yeah, it's been a while.
We did, to be fair, I think we did an end of season one, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Did we?
We did the Champions one. The league.
That was good. Right, so let's have moments of the since then. So, Neil, I'm going to throw you first.
Right, Jerry. Well, I was thinking about this, and I was torn between a couple. You know, because we were doing a podcast, I thought, let's remember. So it's been a delightful summer, just generally. But I was torn between two signing-related ones, and I'm going to go for a signing-related one, which I will only be able to tell in hindsight whether it was the moment of the summer, and it was the signing of Gustavo Hamer, because having seen him, I have deduced that he is sensational, and that will be a big moment for us. The other one was just the signing of Callum O'Hare, and mainly Robin's wearing that curly wig. But the premier moment of the summer will be the signing of Gustavo Hamer, because he is good.
What about the signing of Boyle Sports?
I have no opinion. That's what we do on this pod. We have no opinion. You guys can have opinions on stuff like that.
Oh, can we? Well, that's very nice of you to tell me that I can have an opinion.
Go for it.
No, I think some people have been negatively affected by betting, and that's harsh, and I should imagine that's difficult then to try and reconcile. But I think it's none of my fucking business. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
My problem is until I stop betting, I should probably not have too strong an opinion on that sort of stuff, because I'm. I can't just. You guys, how dare you wear my shirt? Oh, by the way, I'll have £5 on Cov to win the championship, please.
Yeah.
Those things don't seem to match up. I need to get my own shit in order.
For me, the whole thing was about, there were some people going, well, sort of, I don't think it's going to affect people's betting or anything. And then within an hour, Boyle Sports are going out going, if you're a Cov fan, follow our account.
Oh,
get
yeah.
a free bet. And it's just like, well, it's not. I don't really bet. I bet once in a blue moon, and it mainly because I'm tight and I want to lose money. But I appreciate the fact that some people have an issue with gambling or have had issues with gambling in the past. And I drink, but I understand why there isn't sort of alcohol isn't allowed on football shirts. So I can sort of don't really see what the difference between alcohol and betting is. If you allow one, why not the other, and vice versa? But I think my main issue is the fact that obviously some people have been adversely affected by this, and some Cov fans were just like, but just get over yourself. You're a snowflake. And it's just like, or you could show a little bit of compassion.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's like, you don't have to be pro or anti. You can just be like, I accept the fact you might have an issue, but ultimately, we're now in the Championship. A lot of clubs in the Premier League and the Championship are sponsored by betting companies. It's not ideal, but also it's where the money is. So that's where they're going to go. It's not ideal. And also people are like, but we wore a betting company in 1987. It's like, yeah, it's a bit different from going to a bingo hall, just being on your phone and being able to bet all the time. It's like,
I forgot it was a bingo. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of, it's not comparable. It's like, I watched motor racing in the 80s when Nigel Mansell was sponsored by cigarette companies. It didn't mean you supported Nigel Mansell any less or take away his accomplishments because of the fact, but it's just a different era. So you can't throw something that was 30, 3 years ago into the mix. It's just that's a nonsense argument. You've got decent arguments. I'll listen to them. Bringing up a sponsorship from 33 years ago is an utter nonsense.
Speaking of which, one of
Can
my I know I'm
can I
jumping the
just
queue a little
quickly
bit.
play some record. Oh, carry on.
No,
sorry.
no, go
We're
on.
just
You
talking
do.
together.
You go now.
Oh, I was just very, very conscious that I said I needed to sort my shit out, and I was talking about placing £5 on Cov, which doesn't really seem like I have much shit to sort out. So I didn't want to trivialise betting in any sense. I don't have a problem, but I appreciate people spend more money than me. On to you, please, Joey.
That's all right. I was going to jump in and say one of my highlights of the summer, based on what you've just said there, Paul, was when what was it that you said? Oh, you said something about working from home, and that you were accused of also supporting human trafficking. So I'm not sure that as much as we're decrying kind of people on the internet talking about betting companies and like we're not even so much that, but disrespecting each other's opinions, I wouldn't put a great deal of stock in what they say because generally speaking, the internet's quite unhinged, isn't it? But I think roughly the main thing, betting company or not, I think if we could all do with respecting each other's opinions a little bit more, which is probably going to go by the wayside as soon as we started talking about Cov, obviously, amongst ourselves. Paul, your moment of the period of time since we last spoke?
My moment of the lockdown is the discrepancy between pre-season friendlies mean fuck all, and then Jody Jones scores a winner from 35 yards in a sort of reserve game, and someone going, he's proven his point. It's like, I think even Jody Jones would accept he hasn't really, and as we just talked about, it's like people can have opinions. The problem is sometimes people pick on people you don't particularly like. Therefore, you'll hammer home when they make an opinion which isn't correct, or they have an opinion which isn't the same as yours. At the end of the day, we don't really know how good Jody Jones is going to be. We all want him to be brilliant, but we don't know. Now, him scoring 2 goals in pre-season friendlies, while amazing, doesn't really prove anything. And I want him to be a success this season, but also I'm going to wait until I see him in a game that matters, in 5 games that matters. Basically, for him, an achievement for him this season will be playing 20 games, even if he doesn't score, because he's missed 2 years of football. So I think we just need to sort of hold our horses when people give opinions you might not like or might not enjoy or you might be a big fan of, because I've seen people giving lots of... We don't know if Max Biamou is going to be that good in the Championship. To some extent, you look at his record last season, he only scored 5 goals. We don't really know how good Max Biamou is going to be. So some people going, I would sell him, he might not be good enough for the Championship, probably isn't the most out there opinion anyone's going to have. So again, just because someone isn't anticipating Max Biamou being a massive success, doesn't mean he hates the guy. It just means he's predicting he might not have a good season. Let's just sort of just accept the fact that people might have a different opinion from you. We're going to have them all season.
People have bad opinions, but they really mean about them as well. So how does that? I mean, this is Twitter. What if you really, really mean, and then you have an opinion? Does that? But can you say, "Oi, stop being mean about it"?
You can. I think there's a big difference. You can sort of say, I think you've overstepped the mark, or you've gone too far, like the guy who accused me of being in favour of people trafficking. There's a point where
Paul,
you've gone too far. You can go, that's too, Jody Jones basically ending up in the non-league having no career. That was a step too far. If you'd have just gone, I'm not convinced Jody Jones is going to be particularly good in the Championship, I think that's a valid argument. He's got a valid point. Saying he'll rot in non-league was a step too far. And I think someone turned around to him and went, come on, you're being a bit silly. But for the football club to rip the guy a new one, that's where it's like...
They didn't rip the guy a new one. It was just... Oh, come on.
No, the thing is, but again, it's not the case of... It isn't what the club do, is it? The club retweeted that guy, knowing that guy would then just get stacks of abuse by people on Twitter, as we discussed, who will say whatever they want because they're on Twitter. So the football club might have been completely in their right. As soon as they put that tweet up, they knew that kid was going to get just stacks of abuse. You knew that kid was going to... I knew that kid was going to get stacks of abuse. That's where it's sort of there's got to be some sort of thought process. Now, if Jody Jones scores the winner in the playoff final and they put that tweet up, the kid probably doesn't care. But in a pre-season friendly, the kid's getting stacks of abuse for a goal that doesn't really mean anything. And that's where everyone's got to take a little bit of responsibility for it.
We should mention, actually, that this season we have decided to divert most of our energy away from talking about Cov and talking about social media ethics and etiquette. Though we should have probably said that right up top. We will not, and I repeat, not be talking about football this season.
You can tell not a lot's happened in 6 months, can't you?
Or that we could talk the hind legs off a donkey about basically anything. Dom, what about you, mate?
I think the main thing, and maybe this is a bit of a recency bias coming in, but it was that golden moment between Saturday and Monday of this week.
Sweet.
Where it looked like Castaner might be our right wing back heading into the season, and we cruelly got it taken away from us with the news that he's left the club to go on a trial, and that's just absolutely devastating that you're taking away any of the joy from winning the league title, I have to say.
Can we just absolutely classic Robbins post-game mind games specifically towards the fans? After what was it, that last game pre-Southampton had said Castaner may well be the first choice right wing going into the season. And also, he said something along the lines of Max Biamu needs to take a look at himself because I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, it's not just what happens on the pitch that means that he might not be starting. And then, of course, Castaner out the door, Biamu straight on the score sheet. Classic bait and switch from Robbie. That's how involved his mind games are. Even in pre-season friendly, he's like, I know exactly how to get around this. Absolute legend. That was going to be mine. You've nicked mine. I don't think anything, even if we get promoted from the Championship this season, nothing is going to top Castaner coming on and then again immediately having an impact. They didn't make that clear enough as far as I was concerned on Twitter. The club should have said Castaner walked on the pitch and about 5 seconds later floated an inch-perfect ball in and Bakayoko scored it. Has there ever been a better goal scored than that? But that combination of players. Can you imagine analysing that post-game as the opposition and being like, you see what's happened here? This is the first time he's ever created a goal. And this is the first time this guy's ever had a shot on target where he wasn't offside. And these two things have collided. We've let both of those things happen at the same time.
I think the funny thing about Castaner is I think he has absolute control over everything that happens, and he just decides when he wants to do it. So he just decided to score that goal immediately because he could. Back and he just decided to do that slide tackle and get sent off because he could. And then he just decided, I'm just going to cross it because I know I'm on my way. And then he's like, well, I'm done now. That's it. He could be the best ever.
Yeah, if he wanted to.
Just strong, but I just feel he's got it in him.
I was talking going back to the highest level of the Dutch league, isn't there?
Well,
yes.
But again, it's what he chooses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They watched that one cross. They were like, I like him. He looks good.
Yeah. Get him on that right wing back, definitely.
Can you imagine if he had started the season as right wing back? What a time to be alive. Robin, let's head into the Championship. No. Hear me out on this one. I've got an idea. Right, okay.
According to Dom's minute sheet, which, as we know, could be incorrect, but he got 3 yellow cards in 191 minutes last season. Wasn't one of those yellow cards without him even being on the pitch?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was. Well,
yeah. He throttled someone, didn't he? It's like I decided to throttle someone now, and I'm going to do it.
Actually, on that subject, Bonham City have just signed a goalkeeper who played 0 minutes last season in the Spanish top flight and got 1 yellow card, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
nice.
That's some going.
It's Castaner-esque. Right, so let's get down to business. Paul, you've got a list of questions that you're going to fire at us.
Oh, I thought we'd just sort of very quickly do something else. Very quickly. I thought we'd quickly go through the squad, but not in great detail. I think
that's asking a big
No,
amount, isn't it? I mean, quickly go through the squad.
no, just bear with us.
Let's get 4 people's opinions.
Sorry
on
to
30
poo-poo that
humans.
idea immediately.
No,
but
No, shh. You all right? Shh. All right,
continue.
thank you. All right, goalkeeper, that's fine. We've got Morosi. We're all happy with Morosi, yeah? Nothing's changed from last season. We're all happy with Morosi. Agreed?
Yes, we are.
Cool. All right, right back. We know that Dabo's first choice. He's slightly injured, so it'll be that young kid at right back. Or because it's not going to be
Pasky.
Castaneer now because he's going.
I don't understand
Yeah?
why it's not Josh Pask.
Because I don't think Josh Pask did very well in the pre-season friendlies. So I think he went for
Shame,
the
'cause
two
he looked
young
neat
lads.
last
Who,
year, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I just thought that was what he
yeah,
was
I
there for.
was.
When we say young lad, are we going to assign a name to it? Just so I know who
I
we're
was-
talking about.
I was hoping that Dom would throw in the two kids who've been
Oh, I've
Blaine
ruined
Rowe?
it for you. Sorry, Dom.
Yeah, so it looks like
Dom.
it's bringing Blaine Rowe, who is a right back in the youth team. Don't think he's even played a great deal at under 23 level, but he looks all right against Peterborough at the weekend. And then you've also got Jack Burrows, who I always thought of as sort of a central kind of attacking midfield player. But he played right back quite a lot for the under 23s last year because they didn't really have anyone to fill that position. But yeah, it looks like a case of it looks like Rose slightly ahead of Burrows just for that position because he just looks a bit more solid defensively, although it's only based off pre-season and didn't have a great deal of defending to do against Peterborough. That's sort of slightly what comes with the right wing back position where you've got that centre back behind you who can help you out a bit. And if it's only 1 or 2 games, you might as well give a young player a chance.
It doesn't actually confuse me though. If we think about it, like Josh Pask. I know we're not going to go on about this, but the more I think about it, the more I wonder why it's not him. Is it purely because of pre-season? Because he did look. I mean, he was Carlos Alberto-esque last year when by the time he came in, he looked pretty decent. Have I imagined?
Every time I saw him there,
pre-season?
I was surprised by how adept he looked there, especially given that he's definitely a centre back, and there's no argument about that. But I thought he'd look like, say, like he was athletic and he was good on the ball and he was mobile. He wasn't Dabo, but I thought he looked like a perfectly serviceable replacement for him.
Yeah, interesting.
Can I ask as well, what on earth has injured Fankati Dabo?
Wasn't it a hip injury?
But irrespective of wherever it is, the guy looks like you could drop a car on him and his head would pop through the sunroof. Like he's not. This is a tank of a man. How exactly has he sustained an injury? Is what I want to know. But I suppose it can happen to the best of us.
Talking of injuries, obviously one of the few new signings really. Da Costa is injured. Is he injured for the season or is he out for?
I think it's a few months.
Okay, and then I think left wing back. I think we all agree, even though he's classed as a winger on this terrible list, is Ryan Giles Wolves. Who I think is going to be ahead of Brandon Mason. I think, he obviously liked Ryan Giles Wolves last season. Didn't really get a chance to play him. I think he's going to be quite impressive. I get the feeling. I think he's going to be a good player this season.
Paul, is this one of those occasions when you just don't explain yourself and everybody has to listen and try and understand what you mean?
Yeah, it's all about
Ryan Giles Wolves.
It's all about the in jokes.
Yeah, but it's an in joke.
It
hasn't happened yet. It's so in that only you know it.
Yeah, I mean, my issue with Ryan Giles is because Ryan Giles sounds like it's his first name. So I've given him a surname and I've called him Wolves. Because apparently I really annoyed someone again on Twitter by calling him that kid from Wolves. I went, don't you know his name? And it's like, well, I do, but just, fuck off. So I think Ryan Giles Wolves will be
We're
left
about
with
respecting opinions as always, yes.
No, I think Brandon Mason is just going to be reserve again, isn't he? I think that's the situation on the left-hand side. Centre-backs, we've got about 30 of them, but I think we all know he's going to start with Hyam and McFadden and the Norwegian lad.
No, he's
because Rose is injured, isn't he?
Oh, see, okay. I thought you meant as first choices.
So again?
I thought you meant as first choices there.
No, I think Rose is injured until Rose returns, which I believe is the end of September. He'll start with. I know.
Can we have his name, please?
Ostigard?
That's not. Wow. Do you know what? My absolute all-time favourite person, I'm going to get his pronunciation wrong. He's called Oyvind Knutsen. He was kind enough to send me a shirt over the summer.
Yes.
He sent an email earlier with a detailed explanation of how to pronounce Leo's name, and the fact that I'm calling him Leo gives you an idea of how successful I was at able to to construe what it was that he was saying. But thank you for the shirt.
Well, I think
and your
Ostergaard is playing. Ostergaard's on international duty, so he might play with one of the other, Pask, Drysdale, or William. No, I think Williams is injured as well.
Drysdale's
Johnson,
not very good
Thompson,
pre-season, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, basically, one of the good things about last season was obviously our defensive unit. By the looks of it, Sam McCallum had already gone. So he's basically only really going to change one player, which would be when Ostergaard gets in first choice, which I think we all have to accept. Looking at the responses by our German friends after his year over there, that he's going to be a very, very good player for us. Is that fair?
I couldn't quite believe the quote. Sorry to jump in there, but that quote that Robbins gave him, he's one of the best players in his age group in European football. What are we doing signing him? That's crazy, isn't it? He must be really good.
That is high praise indeed.
Mm.
Go on, Dom.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say again, just sort of based on the Peterborough friendly, and again, not a ton of defending to do in that game for him, but he just looked quite a composed presence, and made a couple of runs which were basically just like a right back, just surging forward. So certainly an interesting player.
Is he a big lad?
Keep an eye on. He's about 6'2" ish.
Okay.
So he's not giant. I suppose the one thing missing from that back three, which you'd want to have in an ideal world, would be a left footer. I was saying sometimes when you have Hyam on that left side, he's constantly sort of coming onto his right foot, and he misses just a few passes, which I think would be more obvious to a left footer. Something to keep an eye on. Potentially, we might be looking to add over the longer term, but sort of quite strange to have a back three made up of three right footers.
Good point.
I suppose the thing is, it's quite difficult. We all know that left footers are a bit niche anyway, but I suppose you've got to bring in a left footer, not just because he's left footed, but also because he's better than what we've got. And it might not be that easy to put that together, I mean, I suppose they probably were looking for that when they went for Ostergaard, but I suppose it's you go for the best player available, and then if someone who comes in who could fill that role. But defensively, I think we're looking pretty solid. I mean, I said it's basically last season's defence, but with hopefully an upgrade on McFadden. Defence midfield, I think we are going to keep the two in midfield defensively. I suppose Gustavo is our replacement for Walsh,
Kelly.
and then
Walsh,
who's going to play alongside him, I suppose. Kelly has missed a bit of pre-season. I think we do have slight question marks over Kelly anyway. So is that looking good, or do we think that that's another place we're probably going to bring someone else before the end of the summer?
Neil?
Probably one of the areas where I'm most unsure on, hilariously, because you've asked me. But Hammer, like you say, like for like, and it's the Kelly thing. We've always, I don't know quite why, but we've always questioned whether he could make the jump. So we'll have to see. I mean, I look at it and you sort of think, well, who do you put Jamie Allen in there alongside him? Does he, or Shipley, can he kind of drop and kind of play alongside him? Shipley could. I think there's a role for him to play potentially in that position, but no, I'm just really intrigued by that one. Really, I just want to see how, because looking at the pre-season games, it's been a bit of a jumble in terms of where players are playing, and I think you saw Jody Jones in the middle at one point. It's just like, okay, we're not quite sure what Mark's got going on at the moment.
Dom?
Yeah, I quite like our options there. Obviously, there's sort of no natural Kelly backup, but I kind of quite like having Shipley in there with Hammer, just as having a left footer and a right footer. I think that has quite a nice balance, although you kind of worried about the defensive protection there. And you got Josh Eccles, who I thought looked really good at the weekend. Again, preseason friendly, maybe don't want to put too much emphasis on preseason gains, but you kind of always sort of think you want to keep a slot or two open in the first team for a young player to come through. I'm sort of semi disappointed about adding another centre back. I know we've got to do it because we need to sort of find quality where we can in the Championship, but you sort of wonder why we have a relatively large under-23 squad with players like Drysdale and Williams and Thompson, who a couple of years ago was playing for the first team, if there isn't sort of that space for them to eventually sort of step up into the team. But I think on paper, we've been obviously linked quite closely with Ben Sheaf, who was at Doncaster last season, who's a deep sitting midfielder who can play centre-back as well. I think, considering we're not absolutely desperate for just a body in there, if we think Sheaf's the right player, we might as well wait for him to make his mind up whether to sign, and if he doesn't, we're all right.
You like Sheaf, don't you?
Yeah, I think he'd fit into the style quite well. He's sort of a very sort of metronomic passer, maybe a little lackadaisical at times. He's sort of a bit of a sort of pass and watch kind of player. Can chip in with the odd goal, and he's got a decent physical frame on him, but it does seem to make a lot of sense. He's sort of a young player. He's proven himself in League Two and League One. It's sort of the kind of player you'd be looking to sign if you're a recently promoted Championship club and looking to upgrade and evolve your team slightly.
I think you've hit the nub of my biggest slight concern is I think we're getting towards a really, really good League One team, like an exceptional League One team, but a completely unknown Championship team. And I know people throw Sheffield United in look at what they did in the Premier League. The difference I've got with Sheffield United over what we've got at the moment is Sheffield United had a lot of players who had played a lot of games. They had I think probably the average age of their team was 28, 29. The average age of our team is a lot younger, and they're a lot more inexperienced. And for me, if I was getting in someone to replace or to fight for Kelly's position, it would be someone who has played a lot of Championship games. Just because, we'll get on to Tyler Walker later, obviously, but it's just he's an exceptional League One player, but completely and he's played a lot of games in the Championship and not done it yet. And that's not to say he won't do it, and that's not to say it's a bad signing. It's exactly the same as we go on to the attacking midfielders. You've got Callum O'Hare. I like Callum O'Hare. He had a good season last season, but he's not an established Championship player. But he's not going to be playing alongside an established Championship player either, because we don't have anyone in our midfield four who is an established Championship player. I mean, I assume O'Hare could play in that position behind the striker with either Jody Jones or Shipley or Allen, which is, that was a good midfield four last season. It worked really well. It's just, and this comes from my naive, I don't watch Championship football. I haven't watched Championship football since we were last in the Championship. All I know is that it's probably better than the last time we were in the Championship. How concerned are people about that midfield four taking the step into the Championship and both scoring the goals that we need, but also keeping the clean sheets we need, that we're going to be happily bobbling around about 12th?
I am concerned in the sense where I don't think that, like you say, we don't have anybody who's played in that league who can just keep us tight and kind of just knows the ropes. I think that is an important thing, and it's important to flag. What I'm excited about, though, is just knowing the players as individuals and seeing what they can do. Just knowing that, like someone like O'Hare, yes, he hasn't played in the Championship, but even just seeing him in pre-season and seeing just how sharp he looks and the class, just reminding me of how good he is, that's exciting. It's just, like I say, it's whether we've thrust too much emphasis on these newbies versus that kind of established professional in the midfield. Maybe Kelly can step up and he can be that guy, but like you say, he's never played in that league, so it is a bit of a punt. It really is.
Joey?
I've got nothing to add other than what was already said. The thing I was going to highlight was what you said, which is I think what we don't know is how good the players are going to be in the Championship. What we do know is that if you take Kelly out of that team, the average age of it is about 19, isn't it? And that I think, irrespective of Kelly coming in or out, one of the things that will almost certainly be a difficult thing for us to navigate next season is having such a young squad. It can have a load of good benefits and it can have a load of cons, and we don't know what it will be like until we have a proper look at it, do we?
I mean, the average age of the team would be about 25.
I still think if you look through Experimental 361, do a thing of the sort of the chart of average ages. If you had an average squad age of 25, I think you'd probably still be in the bottom sort of 20%.
So I think you can get overboard with like, this is the world's youngest squad. It isn't. For me, it's not the fact that it's a young collection of players, but they're not a set of players who played 200 games. I mean, Callum O'Hare's 22, but he hasn't played. He's not started.
Yeah, well, but it's the same thing. I'm saying that they haven't got a lot of experience.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it is. It's an experience thing. And then up front, obviously, we haven't. We've got last season's top goal scorer still with us, which is a bit like having the same manager. It's a bit odd.
You're still claiming that last season's top scorer was Bakayoko as part of your continued promotion push for.
I mean, what's interesting, and I did think it's interesting. What's interesting is a year later they've got the guy they actually wanted last season, haven't they? Tyler Walker was the guy they wanted. If they had got Tyler Walker, we would never have signed Godden. Tyler Walker was the man they wanted. So it's interesting to see, because as I said earlier, I saw quite a few people on Twitter saying, he'll play two up front. You've got to remember, it basically took that he had no option in League Two other than to play McNulty and Biama up front. He's not a man who wants to play two up front. He might end up playing two up front, but he's not going to start with two up front. I could be wrong, but it's either Walker or Godden. Now the question is, again, looking at the Godden's 29. I know he played twice for Scunthorpe in the Championship like a decade ago. Biama's 30, never played in the Championship. It's only in his third year fourth year in professional football. Bakayoko, again, not really played Championship football. And then Tyler Walker, who I think, I asked Dom earlier in the summer why we were trying to sign Nottingham's fourth choice striker. And Dom was very positive about the fact that Kyle Walker was far better than fourth choice at Notts Forest. The point is that his record in the last two seasons at Mansfield Town and Lincoln is really good. He's absolutely proven he deserves his chance in the Championship. When he's been in the Championship, it hasn't quite worked for him. Let's just hope that this is his,
What are you basing that on?
This is his time. Well, I'm basing that on the fact he's played.
He's had like 4 different 6-game spells at Forest at different managers and stages.
Yeah, but he's 23 now. I'm not saying he's 24. I'm not saying he hasn't earned his chance. I'm saying he's 24 and he has had a couple of, obviously Forest rated him. He made his debut 6 years ago. So obviously they have thought quite highly of him. He's been there 5-6 years, but he's never broken into the first team, even though he's had success at other clubs at lower level. I'm not saying it's a bad signing at all. I think it's a positive signing, but he's an exceptional, or proven to be an exceptional League One, League Two player. He is absolutely unknown in the Championship. We don't know if he's going to be, how good he's going to be in the Championship. We know the step up between League One and the Championship is quite big, but some players take it in their stride and he's magnificent. All I'm saying is I don't know how good he's going to be. Now, I know lots of our fans are absolutely convinced, and I said Dom was very eloquent and was like, no, this guy's perfect for us. And it's like, that's fine. Dom's happy, I'm happy. But
you're not happy. You've never been happy. I've known you for
I
about
would
10
like
years
it
and I've never heard you once be happy.
I would like it if it didn't work with Tyler Walker, which is a possibility, however slim, that you had someone on the bench and you were like, okay, we weren't particularly happy about turning into you in League One, now in the Championship. I'm surprised he's kept Bakayoko and Biamu. For me, I would have got rid of one of those and then got in a Leon Clark type, older, been there, done it. And I know sort of you wouldn't bring Leon Clark in for his like attitude in the changing room, but again, it's sort of you're going in with a very naive attacking four, players who aren't used to playing against the type of quality they will be up against some weeks in the Championship. Because you got to remember, players in the Championship over the last couple of seasons have gone for multi-millions of pounds. Some of the defenders, what's his name, Torre Mears, the guy who was at Leeds last season, who was really highly thought of. There are some exceptional defenders in the Championship, and we're going in without a striker who's really scored a goal in the Championship.
Generally speaking now, I know this sounds like probably quite an obvious thing to say, but I think you understand what I mean. I think most of the teams that are currently in the Championship have been in the Premier League fairly recently, haven't they? And so they've all got money and they've all got hangover Premier League players. And if you think about the last team that we would have had in the Championship, albeit one that was so shite enough that it went down, and you think man for man against the type of players that are in the Championship now, and you think about how bloated the Premier League is and how there's not enough space for everybody and the quality trickles down, it's light years away from the Championship that we were in. And I think what we've got to stop saying for the sake of the rest of this podcast, that I think is the big thing, is we've just got an entire squad of players that we quite like, that have never played at that level before, and will all show themselves as to whether they can or cannot play in the Championship. That's what will happen from Saturday onwards. I know it's not a league game on Saturday. We'll just find out whether... I mean, Dom Hyam, we said, I wonder if he can do it in League One, and he was great in League One. Now, it might take him time, or he might not ever be good enough, but that's the same now for literally the entire squad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's almost my point, is you haven't got one player who you know is absolutely comfortable in the Championship. And as I said, I'm not saying that there won't be any.
Yeah, that's the thing,
I'm not
isn't
saying
it?
that O'Hare will be shit. I'm just saying it's a completely... There's no one's got any reputation. No one's got any... you're not hanging your hat on anyone to be like, yeah, you're Championship level. Now, there will be some, and there will be some who will absolutely stand out, and in a year's time, they won't be here because they'll be somewhere, Premier League or whatever. But there'll also be some who we're pretty confident about who might not be up to it.
Yeah, and it might be players that surprise you that end up being... But, I mean, this is about as base a level as football opinion can be. It's an insightful, not you, Paul, but me. I was about to say, some players that you might not think be good end up be good. Some players that you think might do good, then might not do good.
Okay, we'll finish this then with the questions, but we'll start in reverse order.
Rightio, Paul. Fire away.
All right, so reverse order. Just a very quick position. Where do we still need to strengthen?
What do you mean by reverse order?
It's reverse order what it is on here. All right. Dom, where do we still need to strengthen?
I would like to see another sort of attacking midfield kind of wide kind of guy to play in one of those sort of advanced positions who just can add some goals in that area of the pitch. I just think, we're not quite sure what Alan O'Hare and Hilsner and Jones can kind of offer at this level. I just think one more guy in that area just to add that little bit more match-winning kind of quality would be helpful.
Neil?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I think numbers-wise, we look quite healthy, but there's just quite a few unknowns there. So it can get quite tricky when you don't have that creativity. Although I do think O'Hare will be great for us. I've just got a good feeling about that. So somebody different just to give us a bit more class there. And also, I do think that if Kelly isn't the man, then we still need somebody sturdy in the middle alongside Hamer, who again I think is going to be good. But there will come games where we're just up against too much class, and we need a real solid base there. And I think it'll be a bit too much to ask for one player to be able to do that.
Joey?
Dennis Wise, but you know what I mean by that, don't you? But no, but do you know what I mean? Like
Gary Speed.
Yeah, I know this is a strange comparison, but since Robin's talked about it over the summer, I think it's salient. Is David Myler? I'm not even sure it's someone that needs to play a lot of games so much as it is someone that possibly just needs to have some experience and some influence over the squad.
Yeah, that's important.
Who do you think? Who you predicting to be
Paul?
the best signing?
I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you.
I would like another striker because I think it's going to be a step too far for Biami. Not really sure about Bakayoko. I wasn't overly convinced by Godden, even though we were in the best team last season. And I said I don't really know anything about Walker. All I know is that he's Desi's son, and everyone else seems to be really positive about it. So if everyone's really positive about it, and not just the usual nutters, then it looks like he's a good signing. I just like another senior, a player who's played at that level. If we go back to the Sheffield United team that got promoted, it was like Billy Sharp. It was like he was 29 or 30 or something. A guy who just been there and done it is just, I say, it's winning those games. It's in the last 5 minutes when you win games, and sometimes you need a striker who's bright enough to sort of JCH it. You know, I'm not going to try and win this ball. I'm just going to fall over and win a free kick and buy myself some time. I think it's, we need someone with a bit of nous, whether or not that be a Liam Kelly in the centre midfield who's going to dive and win his free kicks and take the sting out of the game, or a striker who's just going to be able to take the ball into a corner or take the sting out or close players down and slow games down. And I think defensively we'll be fine. Best
I do very quickly just love the fact that we've got a 30-man first team squad at the minute, and we've got 4 first team strikers to fit into one berth. And Paul, you're like, I still think we probably could do. But anyway, we haven't even seen the main one that we've signed. You're like, I think we could probably definitely do with one more. And likewise, Dom, haven't we got about 8 attacking midfielders at the club at the minute, including a load of wide players that I don't even know how we'd fit in? You're like, I tell you what, I agree with both of you, but it is funny that we're just like, I think probably we could do with maybe another 6-7 players to
the thing for me is we've got 4 strikers. We've got 4 strikers, but if we sold 2 of them, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. And we need to make sure if we don't just have quantity.
By the sounds of it, though, you want Godden and Walker gone. That's what annoys me.
Biama and Bakker up front. What a way to live a life.
What a dream.
All right, best signing. Who do we think is going to be the player we're raving about?
Who do you want to start, Paul?
You can start, Joey.
I'm going to leave the obvious choice. Well, not the obvious choice. I'm going to leave Neil's choice to Neil, and I'm going to say Leo. I've got a feeling that he's going to be good, isn't he?
Dom?
I'm going to go with Ty Walker, based just purely on that feeling that signing him gave me, that it just boosted our prospects for the season that little bit, just pushed up a little bit further. Whereas I think the rest of our signings thus far have mainly been sort of replacing players who have left or were the exact player that had left, like O'Hare and Giles.
Neil?
It's Hamer.
Gus?
I think it'd be Leo. I think Leo's going to be a class above.
Can I just say, and I know that I'm picking apart everything we're saying tonight, but what we've just done there is said, who do we think the best signing is going to be? And then we've gone round and taken it in turns, and we've gone, I think this boy, because he's going to be good. No knowledge,
that's
no insight. I think this, because he big boy that's defender, and he could do good football.
No,
don't slag it off. It's taken us 6 months to cultivate this.
But also, I think it was the outpouring of grief from the German fans. It's like, I know some players when they go, everyone's like, oh no, it was like that guy's brilliant. And you were like,
true.
Okay. If all of you are just saying, I don't know, obviously it's not probably all of them. It's the people the Cov fans have found to retweet. I accept that as well, but it did seem like, oh, this guy's good. Not just Cov fans. I've seen him for 30 seconds on YouTube. Literally, this guy has played in the second division of German football and stood out. Okay, that's good enough for me. All right. Obviously, it's the lorry question. You're not allowed to answer for Dom Hyam, but who will break through this season? We'll start with Neil.
Weird one, but I reckon Jody might do all right. I think, and I'll call it breakthrough just because, after everything he's gone through, we just don't know. I just think, he's gonna have some chances off the bench. He's gonna show what he can do, and it's not going to say he's going to be perfect or he's going to be consistent, but I think he's going to have some moments, and that's good enough for me.
Neil, can I ask you a question on top of that? Is there anyone that you'd like to see break through more than Jody?
No, there isn't, is there? Really, just I like the human. I like the human element to it, and it's crazy. Like after everything that's gone on, just sort of think, this guy deserves a break.
I think we all do. I think we all deserve it because I think we were robbed of him. He should have been like League Two Player of the Season. That shouldn't.
Oh God, absolutely. Yeah.
He should have. We should have been treated to a year of him just completely destroying defences, and his stock should have risen, and he shouldn't have been. I mean, I know that there's no cosmic justice or anything, but those two ACLs are so cruel, aren't they? That it would be really fabulous for him to come in this season. I think, as Paul says, even if he just played 25, 30 games and had some impact, it would be brilliant just to see him cut through like that. So I think that's a lovely answer on your part there, Neil.
All right, Joey?
Can you go to Dom? Go Dom first.
It's always a tough one predicting sort of the player who is going to surprise you by being surprisingly good this season. I always find that a tough one because everything just seems like so set. But I was going to throw Josh Eccles' name out there. Not sure how involved he'll be this season, but I reckon if he gets a chance for a game or two, just come in the side, this might be a year where we start to get to know what it's all about. A lot more than we currently do.
What's the sub bench situation? I haven't really kept abreast of what's going on. I mean, is it back to normal?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's not 20, then I mean he may get on the bench, more often than he did last year. But he was on the bench quite a bit, weren't he? Ignore me.
There's not a lot of for what we have got. I don't think we've got a lot of very natural players for that kind of deeper midfield role, have we? Shipley could play there probably. You could probably push a load of players there, but the Eccles is ready-made for it. I have to be careful with Eccles because every time, a bit like Pask, but a bit more, every time I see Eccles, I think, you look brilliant. You look really good. I don't understand why he's not a bit further forward in the sort of playing stakes. But it's
suppose last season it would have been very, very, very difficult to break the Walsh and Kelly partnership, wasn't it? I mean, for me, my issue with Allen and Shipley is I'm not overly sure if we're playing the retention game that we played last season, if I trust them to play the deep role well enough that they're not the ball isn't being turned over close enough to our goal that we're not in deep shit. Which is why.
Is anyone talking about Allen playing more deeper?
I think he played in alongside Hammer in one of the pre-season friendlies because obviously with Kelly out, your options are only Allen, Shipley, or Eccles really, apart from obviously the Jody Jones philosophy, which is up there with having Castner at right wing back.
I don't think I want to see Allen deeper.
No, and I don't either.
I want to see him in the first team, but I'm not. I think I want to see him because I think to your point, Dom, you're absolutely right. The thing with O'Hare is around. Is he going to give you enough goal interventions, so assists, build up and everything else, that you need? Whereas you feel like Allen probably will, won't he? Allen probably do so to such an extent. If he can operate at championship level, the nature of what he does is all goals, isn't it?
Well, if you look at Alan's, and again, I'm trusting Dom's spreadsheet here. Last season, he was involved in 5 goals with 4 assists and 1 goal himself, which was only 1 less than O'Hare, even though O'Hare played 3 times as many hours or minutes. Played. Jamie Allen basically did that so he was involved in a goal in about every 120 minutes, while it was basically every 300 minutes for Callum O'Hare. And that's not,
No, I think it's not to...
Callum O'Hare. It is a case of Alan seemed to, from what you remember, Alan sort of bursting onto the scene. He did seem to be involved in. It was his ball at Rochdale for Godden. It was his goal against Sunderland for Godden.
Yeah, they're just 2 very different types of players, aren't they? Yeah. Alan is just a very direct goalman, isn't he? Whereas O'Hare, I think, probably offers you an awful lot more all around the pitch. I just think that Alan is very single-minded towards making sure that the ball is in the back of the net one way or the other, isn't he?
My breakthrough, I think, is Ryan Giles Wolves. I don't know why. I have a really, I don't know, an unerring feeling that he's going to be really good next season, just because I think he's going to get the games. I think even if he has a bit of a ropey start, I think his first team position is pretty much cemented.
I fell in love with Ryan Giles when he came on against Rotherham at St Andrews last season. And the first thing he did was to produce this really beautiful piece of skill. And my mind hasn't been changed ever since I learned that actually it was Liam Walsh that did it.
Takes a big man to admit that.
I just think it's going to be good, yeah.
Okay, next question. Who do we think, just one worder, I will start with Dom again. Who will be our best player?
Istegard. That's a pronunciation I'm going for, by the way.
Can I give you Can I give you the official lowdown on the pronunciation?
The worst. Go on.
Apparently, Ust. I think. Do you know what? You did really, really well there, but I think with a slight tweak. Ust apparently like rust, and the A sound is like lawn apparently, and the D isn't pronounced at the end, which I think makes it Ustigor.
Ustigor.
Okay.
However, that's why I'm going for Leo, because I'm not. I think you've gone too outside of yourself, Neil, by calling him Hamer. Even if that's right, I think you've got a responsibility to call him Hamer.
I can't do it. I can't bring myself to go there.
But likewise, do you not think it's a bit... So even if you're right, do you not think it's a bit... I'm just going to go for it. Up yourself to call him Gustavo Hamer.
I mean, it depends on what name. I mean, the Ustigor, I wouldn't do it. And like that guy who once tried to tell everybody that Cristiano Ronaldo was Ronaldo.
Nice.
No, that doesn't happen. But Hamer, it just looks like Hamer.
It does look a bit like.
Am I going far? Is that a bit much?
No. It's only me being. It's me being neurotic more than anything else. I think there was it, but I don't know. I don't think I can call him Hamer either. He might just be Gus for the rest of the season. Basically, I'm turning into Paul.
Well, we can't listen to Clive, so we're just going to have to work out what they call him, I think.
Neil, best player?
You know.
You going for Big Gus
Joey,
again?
best player?
Honestly, I don't mean to go on about it, but I've seen just what I've seen. I just think we're going to be raving about him. Obviously, Leo, I didn't see him at all at the weekend. I missed the first portion of those, that a million minutes. So I don't know about him, but I just think Hamer, or he's going to be good.
I'm going to hedge my bets because there is one player in the squad that I will be shocked if they can't step up, and it's Dabo. I just think that he
call.
I just think he again will step up and be high level for the championship still.
We're rubbish, aren't we? Just ignoring him because he was injured. You're right. He's going to be class, isn't he? Surely.
I'll be honest with you. I'm quite surprised he hasn't gone. Perhaps the injury has halted that, but I'd be so surprised if people hadn't been looking at him and thinking Lots of players did really. Michael Rose is a good example. Michael Rose had a really brilliant season last season. Dabo was a fucking animal.
Yes.
Absolutely incredible. I've got no doubt in my mind that he will be more than good enough for the championship. And I think there's a good chance we'll be talking about him again in terms of possible player of the season.
When's he back?
He's back training, isn't he?
Oh, okay, good.
So he might even be. I don't know how much of pre-season he missed. Whether or not he'll be fit enough for the game on the 12th.
You get the feeling that if he's even a bit fit, they will find a way.
If we beat Milton Keynes, have we got another game before the 12th?
I haven't looked it up, to be honest.
Paul, who are you saying is going to be the best man?
I think if we stay up, I think it'll be Walker. I think if we stay up, he's going to have to. He'll have to get around about 15 to 18 goals, and I think he'll have to play. I think the lone striker role in the system we played, and the system we have, is going to be a thankless task against some of the better teams. So I think if we're going to stay up, I think it'll be him. I think if it's someone else, then we will be touch and go. But I think if we stay up, I think it'll be Walker. If that isn't being too negative. Top scorer, so I'll just throw Walker in because that's my answer. Joey?
You'd have to feel like it's going to be Walker one way or the other, don't you? Robbins has showed before that he will stick with a striker who's his first choice striker. There can be no doubt that Walker is the first choice striker. You imagine he'll play rain or shine all season. Just by law of averages, he'll either get, like you say, he'll either do terribly successfully and get somewhere between 14 and 20. But either at the worst, you imagine he'll probably stump up with 10.
The Clinton Morrison 10. Neil?
It's good to be back in the championship, Ben.
Same logic. Although I do think Godden's looked pretty decent in the pre-season as well. I think great finish the other day. Looked decent against Rangers as well, early doors. But no, I think he's got a chance of getting a few goals. But I think just by pure minutes on the pitch, Walker's probably going to be the one.
Just quickly on Godden, I don't know if anybody else cannot forgive him for being offside against Swindon.
I haven't forgiven him for being offside against Rochdale.
That
was in February.
We had a goal disallowed against Swindon in pre-season that I've watched a few times since, and I don't understand how. I know it's only a pre-season game; it doesn't matter. But it really got on my nerves that he was offside. It's such a small thing, but it really riled me up. Yeah, because it was just. You were like, this wasn't a marginal call. It was only one other person that you had to be stood behind. Isn't this the only thing that you had to think about, really? But there you go. No more.
Dom, top goal scorer?
Yeah, I'm going to make it a full set of Walkers.
I'll ask a slightly difficult question then. If you accept that Godden's probably going to be second highest goal scorer purely by the fact that they're the only two strikers we're going to play, who's going to be third highest goal scorer?
Oh, this is a reach, isn't it? What are we going to do here?
One immediately springs to mind. It's Jordan Shipley. I just think by hook or by crook, he's going to force himself into the team here, and he's going to chip in with
7 goals.
Yeah.
Third's always 7, isn't it?
Yeah, 5.
Hamar. Sorry, Hamar. Hamar. Got 4.
Homer.
Yeah.
Homer.
But I mean, even if you look at last season, you basically got Walker got 15, Godden got 14, and then the next highest is Shipley with 5, and there's a couple of 4s. But there isn't that. Let's be honest, goals was our issue last season. We were the best team in the division, but we didn't actually hammer teams. We won a lot by the odd goal. This season, we're not going to keep as many clean sheets because we're up against better strikers who need fewer chances. The question is, do we score enough goals? And Walker's got to be one of the solutions to that. But we haven't brought in someone behind the striker who's going to, who's going to set the world on fire. I mean, I said I like O'Hare. For me, he's going to have to get around about 8 if we're going to stay up. It's just that's him, Allen, Shipley, Jody Jones if he plays. These players have all got to be chipping in with 4 or 5 just to get the numbers up because you're playing with a lone striker. You can't expect Walker to get us. We need 60 goals to stay up. Dom, is that a fair estimate?
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Well,
What?
I say somewhere between 50 and 60. Obviously, it kind of depends on how many you let in. But
Yeah. But we are talking basically probably 50, 60, aren't we? I mean, we're talking about a goal, 1.2 goals a game, aren't we? Really? And if we want to be pushing higher, I know some Cov fans are. We're going to win the championship, but if we're going to be pushing like mid-table, we're going to need to score around 70, 60, 70. Depends how many clean sheets we keep. Then, we're going to need goals from more than just a striker, and it's going to have to be people like O'Hare who step up. And, it's not a question of ability then, it's a question of
if I can play devil's
things
advocate,
like that,
if I
isn't
can
it?
play devil's advocate for a second, I
Yeah, sure.
agree with you to an extent, but if we stay up next season, it's not going to be because we've scored a load of goals. It's going to be because we've not conceded a load of goals. So I think one thing that we can hold out quite a lot of hope for is I think we're quite a solid unit. And it's a case of, I also think that if, when we're talking about and speculating about which players could step up, I think you would hope Morosi, Rose, Hyam, Dabo, it's the defensive players that you've probably got less of a question mark over. And if there is a question mark over them and it fails, then we're doomed no matter what we do, because they're in no way scoring 90 goals, are we? It's just not. It's just not going to happen. So actually, I think we could find ourselves in a situation where we continue to be quite solid defensively, and maybe we don't need to score however many goals. I think we probably could, in theory, stay up and score, a few. And that's really where I come back to where I do think you're absolutely right. You probably need Walker to score in excess of 15, and then you need Shipley and Allen to get 5 each, O'Hare to get 5. Maybe that, a few 2s and 3s here and there probably keep you up.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating. I think it's just, we we didn't score a lot of goals last season. You look at the league table, I think, we scored the same as Sunderland, who were 7th or 8th. The teams beneath us got 60 odd. I mean, the final question is, where do we think where's our final finishing position? Now, obviously, we've got the massive advantage of the fact that Sheffield Wednesday have been deducted, 12 points?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so we're already 4 wins ahead of Sheffield Wednesday. I think Wickham are obviously... God knows what's going to happen with Wickham. Wickham could either be safe by Christmas or screwed by Christmas. They're the even bigger unknowns, aren't they? Not just because I think we're going into a league which plays very much to how we play, whether or not last season we were the best team at playing the way we played. This season we're going to play teams who are better on the ball than we are. So it's how we're going to then cope with other teams having long periods of possession. Wickham don't give a shit. They're like my youngest child. They don't care. They don't care. They don't need the ball. They're happy not to have the ball, as long as when they get the ball they try and do something with it. So they're a massive question mark. From what I gather, I think Don will back me up on this. Barnsley last season would have been very unlucky to get relegated, or a good side. Teams like Birmingham were a basket case, have got in a decent manager and starting to sort themselves out. I think it's a difficult league, isn't it? And I think for me, finishing position, I think anything outside, I'd go for 17th, 18th. Sort of makes sense to me because, as you say, I think defensively we'll be solid, but I just haven't got a clue. I mean, you look at Watford. None of our players get in Watford's first 15, do they?
if that.
Well, so I would say that if you use as a sort of admittedly nth degree example, I have a sort of rough idea in my head that Hyam and Rose will be quite not incredible but effective championship defenders. But you could flip that on its head and say, and I know that they got promoted this season, you do wonder if they come up against Mitrovic, you do wonder whether they actually might be a bit shit. Do you know what I mean? That actually, there's quite a lot of players in the championship that are that level. But then on the flip side, this is so insightless. Sorry. There's also quite a lot of strikers that aren't that good, are they? And that's why it's just basically. I think it's a bit of a pointless podcast, unfortunately. This, I apologise, guys, because we just no idea, do we?
No.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, I think this is the ultimate have no idea. We just, yeah, I mean, Dom probably has more idea than the rest of us. How confident, like, going back to the betting, how much of your pennies would you take to Boyle Sports and say, Cov are going to finish, what, outside the relegation zone?
Yeah, I think basically we're sort of in sort of a clutch of clubs who are sort of around that relegation fight. You're looking at probably Luton as well and Rotherham, where I think on our day we could make things difficult for a few of the better teams, but just in terms of like the squad depth and just overall quality, we're sort of up against a stacked deck kind of thing. I think there's because of like the pandemic kind of situation, I think there's quite a few clubs in the Championship who ordinarily would have really sort of signed quite a few players just to improve their squads and just haven't been able to. The clubs like Middlesbrough and QPR and just like Reading as well. It's a very, very odd situation where they've sacked their manager 2 weeks before the start of the season. But it does seem one of the things we haven't really discussed is what effect behind closed doors football and that sort of thing has had on the Championship. And I think that could be a bit of a leveller heading into this season where we have been able to inject some fresh blood into our squad and we got a bit of momentum, and that might count for something heading into the season. It's just about that first sort of 5 or 10 games, just getting up to speed and getting points on the board and just feeling at home at this level. And if you sort of have a heavy defeat or two and really struggle to pick up that first win, that's sort of where it begins to mount. But even last season, when you're looking at Luton and Barnsley, where they had just horrible starts to the season, and they sort of around March time, they were looking pretty desperate, but they managed to rally towards the end of the season. They just got that sense that they did belong there, and it was just a little bit better motivation and organisation. Perhaps there is a lot made of that goal between League One and the Championship, and a lot of it's just about getting that mental side of it right and just feeling like you belong at that level. So, yeah, I think, we are sort of just generally sort of looking at sort of the way sort of resources stack up, just around above that relegation zone, and that Sheffield Wednesday point deduction is looking fairly helpful if it stands.
Because weren't Stoke down at the bottom last season?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Sort of their form since they appointed Michael O'Neill, who was the Northern Ireland manager over the past few years, has actually been really good. But yes, they've had a very odd summer in terms of recruitment. We're sort of expecting them to sort of have a bit of a clear out of some of the older faces in that squad, and they've brought in Stephen Fletcher and John Obi Mikel as their signing. So it's quite strange, but I think they've got the right man in charge to turn them around.
That's the thing. So one of my mates is a big Stoke fan. As far as they're concerned, if he's chosen to sign those players, then they're the right players to sign, such as their confidence in O'Neill's kind of stewardship. I was taking the piss out of him and saying that is a terrible sign. He said, look, if he signed him, then it's the right person. So their belief in him is absolutely sky high, isn't it? Have I just been arrested for that?
The ambulance says it all. It's really hard. I mean, we're not trying to be negative. We are where we are. It's very different from when we won promotion from League Two to League One, because we knew what League One was all about. We knew that, basically we'd had an aberration and got relegated, but we knew that League One wasn't League One and League One and League Two is basically just one big division. Championship, we know, is a step up, and it's just we're all happy with the players we've got. We're not worried. Like, I don't think any of us are sort of apart from obviously Bakayoko, Biami, whether or not Castaneer, sort of players that we weren't overly sure about last season either, sort of ability-wise, McFadden as well. But the rest of them we're confident in. It's just, let's hope that they don't take too long adjusting, which is going to be the big thing, isn't it? It's purely down to how long it takes them to realise that they're good enough to play in the Championship. And this, the start is Bristol City away, Queen's Park Rangers at home, which is now on Sky on a Friday night, and Barnsley away. So, and then the second home game is former Premiership Bournemouth. After that, it's Brentford, who were playoff finalists.
I like to take some comfort from just the performances last year against Birmingham for a start. I mean, just that kind of alludes to we didn't seem to think we could cope with them, and then suddenly realised, oh, actually, yeah, we can. And then we stepped it up, and I thought pound for pound over the course of the 2 games, we were better team than them. And it's just, it's FA Cup, and it's one off, not really one off, 2 off. But I think like the nature of that, and I think Dom's point that there's so many other factors this year which aren't usual factors. So, we can be realistic about the fact we don't have the money and we don't really have the same standard of players. But I think there's a lot of other stuff at play this year, which at least makes it. I'm still excited for it. So I'm not going into the season with a hell of a lot of trepidation about the fact, it's just going to be an absolute slog. It might be, but also I think there's just a lot of other stuff which we just don't know at this moment, which is why it makes for a really sort of intriguing season. And those games last year against Birmingham make me think, oh, well, once these players realised it wasn't that hard, it wasn't that difficult, they really stepped up and believed in themselves. So you get those wins early doors, you get, a couple of wins just to settle ourselves. We may start to actually believe in themselves a bit more than, the papers and the betting companies and all them lot do at the moment. But that's my ever the optimist view of things.
Paul?
Yeah, I said, you sort of, it's like anything, you're just trying not to sort of get too excited because we just don't know. I have no idea. And I know I've just gone around in complete circle in an hour and 20 minutes. But we are, and it is that sort of, we'd have taken 3,000 Bristol City, and we're sort of missing out on that as well. That first game back in the Championship would have been a really big thing, and it's sort of getting yourself into that mindset that the season's going to start, and it's a massive season for us where we really need to get hitting the ground running, or we need to come back. But also, as Dom said, I think, the Premier League clubs haven't sorted themselves out yet. Like, there hasn't been that trickle down of players. We're talking about signing a lad from Man United on loan or a lad from West Brom. It's just the whole. I think you'll see a lot of teams start the first game of the season, and then clubs will go out and sign 2 or 3 players, and their dynamics will be completely different. It might be the perfect time, as we're relatively settled, to play these teams because we're going in knowing what we've got, while some teams are probably still searching for the players that they need, or they're waiting for that kid from Chelsea to be released because Chelsea are signing such and such, or the kid from Villa or whatever. At least we're sort of going in relatively settled. I think that's a positive. We haven't overhauled the team. That's a positive. So this team was the best team in League One. It's got a chance in the Championship. Let's embrace it. I know Dom's done a review for Milton Keynes Dons.
Do we still want to talk about it? The official curtain raiser.
Do it.
The first round of the Carabao Cup.
Why not?
Yeah. So Milton Keynes Dons away was kind of a strange one because we played them in a friendly relatively recently. Although we played their second or third team, which included their manager, Russell Martin, playing in central defence, which is probably not going to happen for this game. It's been quite a strange summer for them. There were sort of reasonable hopes, even though they finished quite low last season in League One, kind of unexpectedly so, that with Russell Martin in charge, had made quite the impact. Certainly in terms of performances, not quite results that they seem to be on the upwards turn, but they've lost 2 or 3 key players, possibly as a result of sort of the tightening of finances as a result of the pandemic and salary caps and stuff like that. So Alex Gilby went to Charlton, which is a very strange transfer considering Charlton at one point over the summer looked like going out of business. And they also sold their striker Reece Healy, who was probably their best striker. He's got different strings to his bow, sort of a quick, nippy and technical kind of player. He went to Toulouse in the French second division, which is a very interesting move. And sort of what's left is sort of just a few sort of pieces of players who've shown promise but have never really got much consistency, and sort of summed up by Carlton Morris, who's probably going to be their main striker this season. He's sort of very impressive physically, and he's quick and he's skillful, but he just never seems to score. If Russell Martin can get goals out of him, then NK Dons will do very well this season. They also signed someone who is probably going to be familiar to a lot of Coventry City fans, Richard Keogh. Again, a strange transfer considering he had quite a serious injury last year as a result of an incident at Derby County involving drinking and driving with a few players, and it did seem that he got a lot of the blame for it. Yeah. Without going into various legal issues, which I've got no idea about. Yeah, so it's sort of an energetic squad. They can play a fair amount of football. It's just about whether they have that end product, and obviously it's the first game of the season, but it sort of feels like the last game of pre-season. So I think it's going to be quite a strange, sort of disjointed kind of game. You'd suspect we'd have the quality to see them off, but they really did knock us out of our rhythm when we played them back in January without creating a great deal of chances. So bit of a banana skin, but we should get through if we have our wits about us.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Paul, any final questions that we've missed or anything?
No, not really. Just yay, new season's upon us. Come on, the mighty Sky Blues and all that sort of jazz.
It is very exciting, isn't it?
It'd be a lot more exciting if we would get ready to go in the car down to Bristol City. It's like, you know, that is the biggest drawback of all this, isn't it? It's sort of, sorry, I know this is probably not the right person, not people to ask, but obviously, well, not obviously, I'm going to buy the whatever it is, the package
membership.
Yeah, and then with that, I get the iPlayer. Yeah.
Yes and no. You get access to watch the home games that you're allowed to watch up until the point where the stadiums are reopened.
That's fine, but when we play QPR on Sky, is it on the iPlayer, or do I have to sort of manifest Sky from somewhere?
So I think it's Sky. They don't show them on both.
Is that a home game?
Away games too.
Say again.
I think you get midweek away games too, and if a home game is on Sky, you can watch it through iFollow, but only if you're a season ticket holder.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was that's how I read it, but I wasn't confident about saying that. But you can also buy all of the games.
If I spend the £50, if I spend the extra £50 for a season ticket, I don't have to have anything to do with Sky.
Yeah, but also if you spend the extra £50 for the season ticket, is that ultimately if the ground reopens, then you've got a full season ticket. I mean, I'm going to get the season ticket, but I think I probably will only be lucky enough to get to 3 games next season. But for £50, it's completely worth it, isn't it?
Well, it's £260, isn't it?
But I'm going to buy the membership anyway because I'm a Morgan and I want to support. I should rephrase that. I'm lucky enough that I can afford to make a decision to support the club in that way. So there was it. So the extra £50 is you kind of think, well, I would buy 3 match tickets that will probably cover that.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that everything gets back to some sort of. Don't want to use the words normality, but I'm too thick, and it's too late for me to think of anything other than that. No, I'll hand presenting duties back to you, Joey.
Beautiful. Part 2 of this podcast will be back tomorrow, where we talk exclusively about the pandemic. No, it's been a pleasure to be back. Dom, thank you for joining us.
Okay, yeah, good to be on as always.
Paul, thank you for joining us.
Cheers, thanks, buddy.
Neil, thank you for joining us.
Thanks all.
Me, thank you for joining me. And you, thank you for listening. Bye.